Hi everyone, my name is Dianne Fago and I do art journaling, junk journaling, collage with magazines, and I do mixed media. And I have been sharing recently my working on the last few pages in my collage journal here. And since I had kind of started sharing that, I didn't think it was very fair to not show you these last few pages from beginning to end. So today I am going to show you how I am going to glue all the floral images down in this page that I have been working on recently. And I am filming this part afterwards because I have to say this one was very involved, and this type of gluing down of images it's pretty advanced, and but I'm just going to share this with you anyways. I don't always well, lately I have been, with how I've been doing pages in here lately. Gluing things down can be quite a chore, and it takes quite a while. So I decided just to go ahead and share this one with you, even though it's a lot to get down. So I hope that you enjoy this, and I hope that you get some hints at least on working with florals in your art journals, and with just thinking about the layering process when it comes to having images in front of and behind the main focal image of your journal page. And I'm just going to go ahead and get started with this. I hope that you enjoy it, and let's get started. Okay, so here is the image that I have been working on these past few days, and I have shared a couple of videos of me working on this, and just working on these last few pages in general in my journal, in my big collage journal. I don't know where I laid my big collage journal. I'd show you. But so I had just recently covered up the text. There was some words here. There was a word here, and there was some text here. So that is where I'm at right now. And just to kind of go over just some of the basic things that I keep on hand, I always have just some soft cloths. I used to always use just baby washcloths because I had a bunch of those. I have 5 children, and even though they are all big kids now, I just always had kept those little washcloths because they were nice to have around. I've got 3 grandbabies, but they're just really soft, and so I got to where I used those to rub on my image. You want something soft because you don't want it to hurt the image in any way, especially the kind of the really thin magazine pages that are just not as good quality. They can be pretty delicate as far as rubbing the ink off of the page. It can be really easy to do. So I've just always used a really soft cloth. This is actually one of my tank tops that I had accidentally torn a hole in, and so I just cut it up into these little squares that are easy for me to use. So I've got that. I do have my X-Acto knife around just in case I need to make any adjustments to anything. I really love using these bent tweezers like this. I have had these for years. If you can tell, they are bent, they are paint covered, they're glued covered. I've been using these forever, so I always have those on hand. I have been recently using this brand of glue stick, the Yoo-Hoo, I think is how it's pronounced. In the past, my favorite, oh, that's not it. I don't even know if I have any. I don't think I have any. In my past, my absolute favorite was the Elmer's Extreme, and I was able to get those at Target, and they were reasonably priced. And you can't find them anymore in the stores. You can get them on Amazon, but they are for only two of them. They're quite expensive, and with how much I go through these, it just wasn't worth it for me to keep using them. So I have since switched over to this brand. I do get them in bulk through Amazon, but they are easy to find in other places. This just happens to be what I've been using. I have used the Elmer's Craft Bond Extra Strength, which I'm pretty sure this is what Elmer's has switched over as far as not doing the extreme anymore. They've got their Craft Bond Extra Strength, and I have used it just fine, but I was able to get these, a whole pack, for a reasonable amount of price. So I've just switched over to this brand, and it works. There are definitely some things that I kind of have to do to make sure that things stick. So you know, it's still better than the purple ones. The purple ones never, for me, they never stay adhered. It doesn't matter what I do, that glue doesn't stay stuck together. So I never use any of those. I always use this or something that's extra strength. So I've got several glue sticks about. I have my scissors, of course, and I just like these fine point ones. Once again, I've had these forever. The other adhesive that I just recently started using, since I have been doing these super crazy, delicate and intricate cutouts of florals, I before was just using a glue stick on them, which was really hard, especially since some of these can get very tacky as you start using them. As they're open more, it just kind of gets thicker and thicker, and it's just more and more difficult to rub against the back sides of these cutouts that I have that are so detailed. And it was very easy to pull off petals and leaves and things like that. And I was at Michael's one day, and I was getting something completely not related, and I walked by these little squeeze bottles that were over by all of the Tim Holtz products. I don't know if this is a Tim Holtz brand, I don't remember. It was a pack of 3, and so I thought, you know what, that might be perfect, because before that I had started trying to use tacky glue, and I was having good luck with tacky glue, especially with things adhering down well. And as you can see, this is leaked out, but I had one of these little fine point nibs that you can put on the end, and it was working really well. But as you can see, I was just making a big old mess with this. It's very obviously tacky and thick, but for some reason, when I saw these, I was like, you know, well, maybe I should try a different adhesive. So this in one of these bottles would work perfectly well. I'm sure it might not be as easy to squeeze out because it is so thick, but these are working really well. But when I was at Michael's and I saw these, I decided to grab this brand, and the reason why I chose it, I knew nothing about the ones that they had. I think they might have had 3 different kinds. I grabbed this one because, first of all, it says it's permanent. It dries clear, which is a plus because, you know, sometimes it's easy to go off the edges on these really super thin pieces. So clear and acid-free was a bonus. I don't, obviously, all these magazine pages aren't acid-free, but I figured since with it being the adhesive that might be a good thing for it to be acid-free, and just hoping that it doesn't yellow and things like that with time. So that is why I picked this. The other main reason is because the price. I was able to get a bigger bottle for, I basically got more product for my money. So that is why I picked that. So I've just got a couple bottles here, on my little area that I have filled up with this glue. And you know, the other thing that's great is because it has the little thing to keep it shut, and this is just perfect. It's really easy for me to hold in my hand. This gets kind of annoying as I'm working on things, to have to kind of like hold it out of the way and whatnot, but I'm learning to work with that. So I've got a couple of these. Let's see. The other thing that I always use is something to glue everything on. I don't want to get glue on my work area, because then I might accidentally get it on places on here that I don't want it. Or, you know, accidentally stick this to my work area, or stick it together onto something else, or something like this. This is just, you know, these are actually oven sheets that I got at our local home goods store. Actually, you know, just like a home improvement store. These are the liners that you can put in the bottom of your oven. So they are non-stick. They work just as much. They work just as well as those craft mats that you can get. But that would also work. But I still always put something down just to kind of help keep the adhesive contained, and not to where I might accidentally get it on someplace that I don't want to. And so what I use for that is, I've got a couple of things. A lot of it's just kind of what I have on hand. I do work in a school cafeteria, and we have big sheets of parchment that is used to go on those really large baking trays that we cook food on. And anytime any of those accidentally touch the floor, they have to be thrown away. Well, my coworkers have learned that I use them, and so they are so awesome, because I'll open up my locker at my job, you know, at the end of the day, and there might be a few sheets of this parchment paper rolled up in my locker, because they know that I can use it. So, and I do. So I've used it in my journals for different purposes, but it's great just as something to protect my surface with. So I do have those, and this might actually be part of one of those sheets. I'm not sure, but this is definitely like parchment paper. It works. This is also parchment paper, and I also have used just good old freezer paper before. It works really well. Nice big sheets, so they always fit when it comes to adhering the whole image down into my journal. I always place a piece of something on each side. Here we go. I always place something on each side in between the pages, so that I don't get any adhesive on any of the pages that are you know, going to be get glue on them. So like this right here, I need to protect this. I need to protect this page. So I've always tuck a piece of parchment in there, or the freezer paper or something. You can use deli paper, just anything like that. And so I would also do it on this other side as well. If I'm adhering down on this, then I would put it here, so that whenever I put that down, then I'm protecting everything around it. So parchment paper, just nice big rolls like this, works really well. So these are just things that I had around. You can tell by this poor freezer paper box that I've had it for quite a while. So I've got that, and let's see, I think that might be it as far as just the tools that I have in my space that I might need. And I'm not going to be adhering this. I'm going to be doing all of the gluing down of the pieces directly onto my page, and then I'm going to take the completed page and then glue that down into the journal. And the reason why I am having to do that is because, just since this is made up of so many different layers, there's no way that I would be able to place this down in my journal and then tuck things in behind and around and whatnot. You could have the effect of having things around her if, you know, maybe you trimmed this off here and let me grab, I'm trying to pick that up, and like maybe just put it beside so that it would look like it was going behind her. That is also an option. And for anyone who's maybe wanting to try gluing something down like this that is so, I guess, advanced, that might be just a good way to start, just to kind of help you get used to, especially seeing things as far as being in front of and behind somebody or an object or anything like that, because sometimes that can be the biggest thing to overcome as you're working on putting the layers together. Got a really good example of that when I was working on this page right here. I wanted it to look like she was standing inside this stack of rings, and because the rings is a separate image. I might have another one that's, here's a large version of that same thing. So this is what it originally looked like, and I cut out all the pieces of blue, but you could still see the parts behind. Well, I wanted it to look like she was standing inside of that, so I had to sit and think about what was the pieces behind and what were the pieces in front, and then cut those out. Plus also leave these parts on the side so that it looked like it was, you know, going behind her. So that is how I did that. But it's just another way of just kind of seeing things, especially just before you glue things down, is how you want it to look as far as cutting things out. I'm not sure why I went off on that tangent, but there you go. So let's get this out of the way. So now, looking at her, I need to put these pieces to the side because I know I'm not going to use those. I'm saving those to go on the other end. So how I'm wanting this to look when she's all finished is I'm going to put this together and see how I want it to be, and then figure out the order that I'm going to glue things down, and keep on kind of messing with how this part is going to go. All right. And I know that I want some of these leaves to go behind her. I have that trimmed already. I don't know if I've got enough of it trimmed, but I think I do. I really like making things go back behind other images. So part of it's in front, part of it's behind. I've got a little piece of her dress that I had accidentally cut into that is snagged here. I need to maybe tape that down somehow in the back. But I don't want to cut it off because if I do, it's going to leave a hole here. So, but my little leaves here keep on snagging on her. So I know I kind of liked the idea of it looking like she was holding onto the flower a little bit, and I don't want these to really be in her face. I had trimmed some of those leaves off in the previous video, and that's how that part's gonna look. Got her wings here. And I've got this section here. I want to make sure that her wing tucks in there, because if these were really on her body, they would be coming down in that spot. So I did not completely cut this piece out. Let's see if I can grab a hold of it. I don't know if I can. Right here. There's this piece right here. I I did not completely cut it out because I didn't know.
Motion detected at front door.
Oh, somebody's at the front door. I think that's probably a package. So I tuck that in. Get this back where it belongs. This part's a lot of just fidgeting around to get it exactly where I want it to be. I like how these are kind of wrapped around her a little bit, and I know I want that. I think I want that part over her head. I'm not 100% sure on that. So I'll get her other wing here. And I also did the same thing on this side as far as cutting this little area out so I can tuck that wing in there. And then this is actually just going to go on top. I don't think I'm going to really put any to where it goes behind her. If I did, it might be this branch right here, because depending on where this ends up, this branch right here could actually kind of go back behind her leg. So we might play with that idea. I'm not sure. So that is how I'm wanting it to look. The first thing that I need to do though, which I just thought of, and I should have done that before I tucked all this in, is I need to cut the edge of this page off because it is actually too large for my journal. So it is too wide. So I think I'm gonna just cut a little bit of the edge off of here. I don't know if you can see how it's rough, which doesn't totally matter because that part's gonna be tucked into the journal, and my journal curves so much you're not gonna be able to see that at all. But I'm needing to make this not so wide anyway, so I'm just gonna take a little bit off this side so then I won't have to take as much off on that side. Let me grab my cutter. Get this cut off. Now I need to grab my journal. See exactly how much of this needs to go. And it's going on this page right here, this side. So I'm going to turn it this way. Close this one, and then I get an idea of where I need to cut this. I've got it pushed up in here as far as I can, and I need to take into account this big curve that's going on because it is, I don't know if you can see, that's kind of what we're working with. So I'm just going to not cut it exactly the length that I need it. I'm going to leave myself a little bit of wiggle room for a few reasons. One is because a lot of times when it comes to adhering this down, it's difficult to get the top and the bottom even, to get it to where, you know, it's easy to sometimes do something like that and to where you've got like extra, it's not straight across. So I always leave a little bit of space on the top and bottom. If I have a lot of space on my image, I might just leave it as it is and then cut it when I'm done. So I'm not going to cut a lot off on this side because I want to make sure that I've got some space in case I don't get this placed exactly evenly on this page when I'm gluing it down. So that is why I leave a little bit of wiggle room. And this is actually quite large on the top and bottom, so I need to figure out where I want to cut this extra off of. And I'm guessing I'll cut it off the bottom because I need this space on the top for all of my flower. Let's turn this over and see how much we got going on here. That's quite a bit. I'm just going to cut it right underneath that. Let me put this down. And, okay. Get this out of the way. I'm just going to go about... Actually, I'm going to cut this side off first. And I'll tell you why in a second. So let me get this cut. Make sure I'm cutting it on the right side. I want to get this off because I didn't cover this up with paint. So, because I realized that I was going to have to cut some off. So I want to make sure I cut it on the right side. You know, measure twice, cut once, or is that how it goes? So, and even though I made this a little long, I'm still going to go out just a little bit. All right, I'm going to cut the other side. And I think that's a little long, but that's okay. All right. So why I save these, usually, unless there's just something on, you know, unless this is full of text or something, and I don't know if I'll save this one because it's got that on there, plus part of her shoe, but a lot of the reason why I save these strips and I have them in a basket, I just keep them in a basket over here on my work area. I've just got strips. But there are times when an image isn't wide enough to go on your journal page. And when it's not, I add just little strips of paper that match, that go along with it. So I've done that here, I've done it here. Even right here, this image was just that much too short for the page. So, and I couldn't cut it because then it would affect what was going on this side. So I just take these leftover pieces of images at work and use those to cover up these edges. So I don't know if you can tell, but I don't like to waste anything that I don't need to. So I save a lot of things because I usually can find a way to use them. And a lot of times I need them. So, okay, so we got her ready. Now, that's actually going to change the way this looks a little bit because I cut off probably a whole inch on the side. So let's get everything tucked in, and then I'm gonna start figuring out what to glue down first. I might go ahead and cut this stem off. I don't need all of that hanging around in the back, and it keeps on snagging on things. So I'm gonna cut that off. Yes, I'm gonna save it. And where was that part of her dress? Let's take care of that real quick here. Do a little bandage work. It's right here. I accidentally did not cut her dress in the right place, and I don't want to cut that off, because if I do, it's going to leave a hole and you'll be able to see the paper behind it. So I'm going to just take, what do I got here? I'm literally just like looking. I've got this little basket on the side that is trash. It's trash paper. This little, it's bits that actually made it into the trash and not onto my floor. So if you could see my floor right now, you would probably be really, really not very impressed with the state of things. When I get really going on working on things, then especially cutting all these out, I get paper everywhere. So this is a little thick, but that's all right. I'm just gonna make a little band-aid here and kind of just glue that bit together. So, and it's another reason why I like having these pieces of parchment on my area, because then if I need to glue something down, I have some parchment there, something to where I can glue on. So I do usually keep one on the side. So let's use our little trusty. Let me go over here. I don't want to do that on the page that I'm on this piece, because then I might accidentally put this image on some wet glue, and then I'd get glue on the front where I might not want it, and that would not be good. This is another place where these tweezers come in really handy. I think these are probably my most used tool. And this actually curves just the slightest bit. Let's see if I can do that here. All right. Make sure that's flat. Make sure that I didn't glue those pieces together. All right, there we go. So now that won't cause a problem anymore. So, there we go. All right, so now let's get this figured out. And I know this is taking a while, but this is, I mean, this is really how long it takes me to do this type of work, because it is just so, there's just so many little things, little factors, little bits that I work through as I am putting these together. And I have just lately, more and more lately actually, have just really gotten excuse me, I have really gotten to the point to where I just do not want to rush putting these together. It's all part of the process, and I enjoy doing these so much, and I just don't want to rush. I don't want to rush it at all. So I just take my time, and if I need to stop and take a break because maybe my fingers are starting to feel fumbly, or I'm tired, even if I start feeling tired, it's like, okay, I need to stop, because if I don't, I might accidentally make a mistake on this that I can't repair. So just kind of honoring that and how I feel as I'm working on things has really changed how I see a lot of it. So that is why I've probably been talking, I don't know how long already, and we haven't even glued anything down yet. So, all right, so that is that part. And then this is gonna go on the top. I kind of even thought, I don't know if I want to try to work some of this. That would really be a lot if I did some crazy stuff like that. Try to blend these together. Which I might, just cause I can. So let's see here. I don't know if this is a good example or not to show you guys how I do this. This is like one of the most intricate ones that I've probably glued down. Well, maybe, I'm not sure. The one before this was quite a lot too. But I do think I like having these together a little bit more, which is really going to affect how I glue down the flower, because part of it is going to be glued down. So basically I'm going to have to glue this down, but not any of the greenery, because I'm going to need it to stay to where I can move it around to wiggle it into this. So, okay, so this is how it's going to be. Where I have this placed, I'm not really able to take this to where I can do it behind her foot like I thought I might be able to, and that's okay. And make sure that I've got enough room for this guy, because this is important. This is words that I want on here. I need to be careful with this branch so it doesn't start getting tired of me moving it around in ways that it doesn't want to move around. Okay. All right, I think this is the way that it's going to be. So now what I do next is I actually take a picture of this, because that way when I'm starting to put it down a lot of times, then I know how I want things to go back. In this case, I've been working with this one so much that I know where I want things to be. But a lot of times, if I've got a lot of elements, then I will take a picture of it so that I know kind of where, in general, where I want the parts to go back down as I'm gluing them down. But in this case, with the way that it is, I think I'm actually going to kind of do things just a tad bit different. Let me get this out of here without hurting anyone. All right. Real quick though, what I want to do first, while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and glue this piece onto here and then let it set. So I know it's going to be on these branches here. I actually not exactly sure how this is going to work, because I haven't used this glue on this parchment, so I don't know if it's going to be able to be seen or not. I don't mind if it makes it to where you can see that at all. Actually, kind of adds to it. Where are my tweezers? Okay, I think I want that. I don't know if that's gonna work. And this glue, I have to tell you, it dries fast. I was gonna try to scoot that over and, oh, I don't know, gotta be careful. Because I kind of would like to have there. Get that back where it belongs. Okay. All right. Kind of like how that leaf's going over the top. It's really important to not pull these images to distort how they naturally lay, because then it's gonna sometimes cause it to buckle, because it's not, you know, like if I pulled this and then tried to glue things down, it's not gonna lay flat in the way that it's supposed to be. So I know there's another leaf here. Let's pull that guy up there. And I'm just putting just a little dab of glue on there. If I accidentally get too much, then I'll take one of my little towels here and kind of tap around it. But as you can see, this is just really slow, delicate work. Really carefully. Oops, I just accidentally broke off a leaf. And that's okay, because guess what? I can stick it on here somewhere, wherever I want to now. Where should we put it? I could put it right there. I'll put it right there. That looks like a good place for it to go. Maybe? Let's see. That's another reason why I like these. It gets my hand out of the way so that I can see how it's going to look. I think I'll put it over here. And since I've obviously gotten glue on this sheet, I'm going to switch it out for a different one, because I need to be careful of all of that. All right, let's see here. There we go. And that has darkened that a little bit. I don't know if that'll lighten up or not as the glue dries. That's okay. I don't mind. All right, so I'm just gonna turn this over. So now, looking at this, I know that I need to put the wings on first, and then I'll put this on. And since I have it where I want it to be, I'm just going to kind of do this and put glue on and then press it down. So I think that will be the easiest way to handle this situation. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna use the glue stick here. So first though, in gluing these, I want these to only be on her back. I don't want to place this down on this back piece yet, because I might have some things to tuck in and around her still that go behind her. So, especially this piece right here. There we go. And that way I'm able to adjust things as needed on this big flower. So I know that nothing that, you know, the wings are connected to her body. So I'm just going to do this part right here first. And I'm just putting some on there. I might put a little bit on here just because. Tuck this in here. Make sure that I get it in that area. Okay. All right, I'm going to do the other side. And this is only going on her back for now. I need to make sure I get it in that little spot, that they're pretty much even. Okay. Got a little bit of glue on there. Get that wiped off while it's still wet. All right, so there's that. I am going to pause here for a minute. I always stand when I work, and so I've been standing this whole time, and ever since I had my knee surgery, I start getting a little stiff when I'm standing in one spot for too long. So I'm going to take a quick break and move around for a little bit, and then I will come back and get this all finished up. Okay, so it has actually been a couple of days since I was last working on this, and I am going to go ahead and get this down hopefully as quickly as I can. I realized that the first part of this I talked a whole lot, but just with this process, there's a lot to think about, and like I've kind of said before, it's better for me to go slow with this. So that is what I'm doing. So I'm just gonna make sure that I've got this where I want it to be. I know that I've got some of this down here that I want to tuck in behind her, and I want to make sure that this upper piece is where I want it to be. I do like how it kind of looks like she's holding on to that, so I'm gonna have that there. I like how this is wrapping around her neck and around her wings. I don't think I'm gonna cover up her face. I need to remove that little bit right there, because that, even after I had cut some of that out earlier, where are my scissors? With the way I'm moving this flower here, now I've got that little piece in her face, and I don't want that in her face, so cut that out. So what I'm going to do, because I know that I also want to have some of this going, actually, I might not tuck this part behind her. I might weave this in and around in here. I think I'll do that. Okay, so I'm going to take that out. So when I glue this down, I've got a few things to think about with this one, and I was actually, as I was getting ready to start working on this again, I kind of started questioning on if this was a good video to, a good page to do to show how I glue things down, because not all of my pages are this involved as far as gluing stuff down. I guess actually lately a lot of them are, but the other one that I have working on would have maybe been a bit better of an example. That's a lot easier than all of this, but Okay, this is what I've started, so I kind of feel like I need to finish that. So what I'm going to do first here is, I know that this part of her arm is only going to be right here. So I'm just kind of rubbing a little bit of glue back there. I don't know how far to come out, that's okay. I actually need to fill my bottle back up a little bit. Okay, so I have not put her down onto the flower yet. So this is where I want the flower to, so I'm gonna put the flower down, glue the flower down. I'm gonna leave this open so that I can weave it into the bits of this guy up here. So I'm gonna glue this down, that will stabilize the flower so it doesn't move around on me. Then I can start gluing these little, the leaves down and go from there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of her arm. I should have filled up my bottle before I started. And in the past, whenever I did this, I was using a glue stick. So it's just, you just have to be careful, just gentle. The paper, sometimes depending on what type of magazine image you're working with, the paper can get even more fragile. If it's really thin magazine paper, you need to really be careful with it. So, and this is clear drying, so I don't really need to worry about that little bit that got off the side. So now I'm going to flip this over and put glue on pretty much all of this. Actually, I might use a glue stick for this part. And I'm trying not to bend this so that it puts a bend in the paper. And I apologize if this is difficult to see. I'm just gonna get some glue on here. I might take it off since that's behind. I might be able to use that later. Okay. And I do know that some of this is going to be in that little area where it's open. That's all right. And by that I mean this here, it's going to have glue on it. So that's another reason why I put this parchment paper down on my work area, so that, because I know I'm going to get glue on there. So now I just need to make sure that this is nice and not twisted or turned or laying in a direction where it's not originally supposed to be, because if it's off, then when I glue this whole thing down, it will be, it can make the image warp. So I've got her hand off. I can tell that I don't have this exact, because this space where her hand goes is not matching up. There we go. And I mean, I'll be 100% honest with you. There are many times where there are warps in this, and I don't get bent out of shape about it. Because once again, and I know I've said this a few times, is this is my art journal and I'm doing this for me, and it is something that I really enjoy and that is relaxing for me, and it's a way that I can just process what's going on in my life and be creative. And if it has wrinkles on the paper whenever I finally get this down into my journal, then so be it. That's just kind of how it is. So that's just something that I had to get over, and I can show you many examples in my journal where the images are wrinkled, and that's okay. it's just one of those things. So now if I'm doing a piece that I know I'm gonna frame, then that's a completely different situation, and I do everything possible to make sure that it is all nice and flat and there aren't any buckles in it and whatnot. But for my journal, this is just for me, so that is just how I kind of had to start seeing things with that. And I'm just adding just a little lines glue down these with this little applicator. It really helps. This glue is quite adhesive. So far it seems to be holding very well, and I've been really happy with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue this down. And if later on I'm looking at it and I notice that I've, missed going around the edges not as well, then I'll go through and add some and, make sure that everything's adhered down well. But for now, I'm just more concentrating on just getting this taken care of. So. I don't want to put, well, her head's not going to go down because it's empty behind it, but I make sure I get this down first. The other thing I like about having the glue in this, having it liquid glue, before when I was using a glue stick for all of this, sometimes the glue was drying in places before I was able to get glue on the whole image that I was trying to put down. And especially with these florals, when you have to be really delicate with it, that was a little bit of a problem. So oops. All right, so now her head is going to not be really glued down well until I actually get her put in my journal. So I need to be careful of that. And I know that since I had, with gluing the flower down, that I've got glue on the back of this, so be careful of that also. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue this little piece down here, just so it doesn't snag when I'm gluing everything down. All right. So that's what we've got so far. Now, for this other part, I think I'm going to glue all this down and leave this open so that I can work some of these leaves in and around what's going on here. So I'm going to do that. I think this other one's got a little bit more glue in it. Okay. Do these branches down here first. Since these are the thicker more stable parts of it, I'm going to get this glued down first, and then I can start working with all of the little branches. Okay. This is another time when these tweezers come in really handy. It really helps with placing things down. I know I want this along the bottom, and I'm making sure I've got that where I want it to be. I'm just patting. I'm not going to rub, because if I rub, I've got a good chance of snagging that on any of these little parts of these branches. So now I'm just going to gently fold this up, hopefully, and start working with getting these pieces down. Since this is just going in my journal, and it'll be protected inside my journal, I'm not necessarily trying to get every single branch and petal covered, because it should be relatively safe inside my journal to where things won't get snagged on it and whatnot. I'm going to start at the bottom because I want to make sure that this is not warping itself in any way, as far as trying to get glued down in a direction it doesn't want to lay. Keeping it true to the shape that it was in the book that I cut it from, I guess is what I'm trying to say. To be careful because I can tell, I can feel adhesive on the end of my fingers, and sometimes it's easy to accidentally glue parts of things onto you that you don't want, and then you could accidentally tear it off of there. And there have many times when I've ripped these, torn off flowers, petals, and I just glue them back on. I just glue it back where it would maybe be on here, or I might even move it to a different space. But I don't. Tears happen, and I don't let it get to me. This is paper, and paper tears, so. All right, so now let's see what we going on with this. That might be kind of neat if I can work that through there. Let's see what we can do. That fits through there just fine. And let's see. Maybe there's a little space here where this might be able to go through. I have to be careful with my tweezers because I know there's adhesive on the end of them also. Okay, now this bottom part, I do not want all of this covering my words, so that's gonna go behind. If I can make that work. I might need to do a little bit of cutting to adjust some things. Well, okay. I think I'm gonna go with that. I like how it's intertwined. I think I want this one out a little bit more though. I'd rather have it like that. There. Okay, I am gonna go with this because I don't want to fiddle with it too much, because fiddling leads to accidentally causing something to happen that you don't want to happen. So, and I've had this sitting out and around on my work area for so long now that I kind of know how I want it to be, because I've been looking at it for quite a while. So this is going to be a little tricky in the sense of how I have this all woven through. So let's see here. I'm just going to try to look underneath the best I can and get the branches first. Anything that I can see that I can get adhesive on. Boy, this, I have to say, this has been the most crazy one that I have tried to adhere down, I think. This guy is going to help keep this other stuff down. Look at this here. That's another great thing about this little applicator is I can kind of tuck it under things and get a little fine line of glue on there, which when I was just using a glue stick, that was next to impossible to do. Not without trying to curl up the side of the image or something like that, and you don't want to do that. Okay, that guy's needs to be glued down. A little bit there. I feel like I'm doing some sort of surgery or something here. So now since this is kind of thin, I'm gonna see if I can actually kind of curve this little bit of a, if I can get a hold of it, if I can curve this little bit of leaf to where it's going in between these words on my poem instead of over it. So since this is so thin, I might be able to make it move to where I want it to be. There we go. There. Because I kind of like how it's going over the poem a little bit, but I don't want my word covered up. There we go. Okay, let's get the rest of this down. And it's going to be next to impossible to get all of those pieces down, I think, just because of where they are. So I'm gonna get in there as much as I can. if I wasn't doing all of this, if I didn't have this other image part of this, then this would not be like this at all, because I could just basically turn this flower over and put adhesive all over the other side and get this down. But since I've decided to make this the most intense gluing experience to date, I'm having to do all this a little bit different. Okay, the little piece of dried adhesive there. Let's see what I've missed. Alright, let's see. A little bit here. Don't want to glue that down yet. Okay, let's see what's going on here. So that is trying to cover up that word. I'm just going to trim it a little bit. There we go. My finger's really getting sticky, so I need to be really careful because stuff is trying to stick to my hands. Now you see what I was talking about with this silly lid. It really gets kind of annoying sometimes. I know I could take it off and set it to the side, but I'm afraid that it would roll off my desk. I'd drop it on the floor, and it would get mixed up in with all the little pieces of paper that I've got all over the place from cutting things out all the time. So for now, I'm trying to just leave it where it is. Okay, wow, that was pretty intense, guys. Oh my gosh. All right, so I know I just have this bottom part. I'm not gonna glue this down at all because I'm letting where it's attached to the branches here hold it. I don't mind that it's flipping around, especially since sometimes, you know, when you put adhesive on this type of paper, you can easily see it from the other side. So I usually try to kind of glue it in places where it's not as obvious, or have things that will hold it in place. Okay, I think that's it. I think we did it. My goodness. All right. So I just remembered something. I need to peel this up a little bit. Since I used a glue stick, I can actually do that very carefully, and luckily it hasn't dried yet. I need to keep this open because I forgot about that, because I'm going to carry on some of these leaves from this page over to this other page, and I'm not ready to glue those down yet because I need to adhere this one down first and get it all ready so that I know where I want to place these. So I will be tucking some of these just under a little bit and having them carry on over to this others, to my girl over here on this side. So there. So I'm going to keep that open. I'm not going to glue this down yet because I'm going to wait to glue this page in my journal until after I have this one down too. So just because, since I'm doing it this way, so because this is going to go onto this other page, so I might do something like that and then have this one connected even better. So all right, well, I'm going to stop for now because that was a lot. And I am going to get this one glued down. I'm going to try to leave that to where it doesn't lay down on itself. I might tuck a little piece of parchment in there or something. I've got a little spot on there from just me pulling it up, so I don't know if you can see that, but that's okay. I might be able to smooth that out after I get her in my journal, but I'll give you a good, better look here what all we just did, which was quite a bit. But now I can just take this image and I put adhesive on my journal page, the page in my journal, and I put adhesive on the back of this, and then I lay it down on my journal. Just start from one side and lay it down as I rub it to make sure that it, try to keep it from getting all those wrinkles and stuff in it. But this is what it looks like right now. So now to move over and finish up this other page, and then I can place these two in my journal, and then I've just got 4 more pages and it's full. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I realize that it's quite long, and but when I start thinking about things that I can share with how I do all of this, well, I try to share what the tips that I think of as they come to my mind. So there goes the mailman. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I will be checking in again with you here in a little bit as I start finishing up these last pages. And as always, please give me a like, give me a subscribe, and be sure to follow me on Instagram. And I'm also got some mixed media stuff that I'm wanting to start working on. I know that I used to do a lot of that, and I haven't done or shared any of that in a really long time, and I know that that is also something that people who follow me enjoy, and I haven't been sharing that. So forgive me for not doing that, and I am really wanting to start working on that some more. I've got a lot of little ATCs, artist trading cards, that are started, and I just need to work on those and get them finished up, and so I can do that on camera for everybody. And then I also would like to start working more in my junk journal. I haven't worked in my junk journal for a really long time, so lots of options of things to do and share. So once again, thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and I appreciate you all so very much, and I will talk to you again here really soon in a little bit. Bye-bye.